Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us. We're always trying to instill good habits into our followers. One of the most efficient ways to create good habits is to do them at the same time every day. There is a reason for this. Humans are creature of habits. They that are designed with an internal biological clock. This is 24-hour cycle that is known as circadian rhythm. Our circadian rhythm plays a vital role in many aspects of our health, including our digestion, sleep patterns, hormone production, and much more. This is why we're very excited to be joined today by Dr. Catherine Clinton. Dr. Clinton is a naturopathic physician and a quantum biology specialist. During this live, Dr. Clinton is going to explain how our biological clocks work, the role that the sun plays in maintaining our circadian rhythm, and other tips for helping us feel grounded when life feels out of balance. So Oh, here you are. Hi, Dr. Clinton. How are you?
Oh, so
Thank
good
you
to
so
be
much
with
for joining
you.
us.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to talk with you today.
Oh my God, totally excited. This is a topic we have not discussed and very, very important since circadian rhythm is literally relates to everything.
hmm it absolutely does. Absolutely. I don't think we realize how much it relates to everything. So I'm really excited to dive into it.
Absolutely. Before we start, tell us a little bit about your background and how you became a naturopathic physician.
I think it started in when I was a teenager. I was competitive in Taekwondo, which is a martial art, and I was
Wow.
teaching uh, two wonderful young men, and their mother was a midwife. And I actually ended up assisting with her for almost a decade. And I knew very shortly after I started that I wasn't going to be a midwife. I mean, they're incredible and they are just sort of at the beck and call of the moms and babies. And I knew that I needed a close sign at night, right? I needed to flip that sign. And so she was an indigenous midwife from Mexico, and she had so many wonderful things to share. And from there, I decided, well, being a naturopathic physician is kind of like that, except you're not delivering babies. And so I actually graduated with a degree in philosophy and had to go back and do all my pre-med studies. And then I went to naturopathic medical school, and it took me a while because I was diagnosed with a couple big conditions. I was diagnosed with ulcerative colitis, which is an autoimmune condition that affects the GI tract. I was diagnosed with Hashimoto thyroiditis. I was diagnosed with Lyme disease and multiple GI parasites, infections. It was sort of, I was in my second year, and it was sort of that proverbial straw that broke the camel's back. So um, from there, I really started diving into different research, psychoneuroimmunology and mitochondrial research. And that's what really sort of opened the doors to quantum biology.
I want to ask about that because you specialize in quantum biology. Like, what is that, and how can it serve a naturopathic physician in helping a patient?
Absolutely. So I think when I was in school, we learned a lot about the chemical, mechanical reasons behind illness and disease. And while that is a layer of truth, there's another layer of truth that quantum biology offers us that really comes down to the cell, really comes down to the flow of electrons and protons. So when people ask me, what is quantum biology? I've heard of quantum physics, I've heard of biology, but never together. Uh, I tell them that quantum biology is just that. It's the study of quantum phenomenon such as tunneling, entanglement, coherence within a living system. And it used to be that quantum physics was only studied in a lab. And they would cool the lab down below absolute zero. They would shield it from any noise. And so when quantum biology started coming up, it's a new emerging field. And when they were doing the initial studies at UC Berkeley, all the quantum physicists were like, no, absolutely not. It can't happen in a living system. We have to shield basically life out of the lab for us to see quantum phenomenon. And now we're finding that it is that chaos of the living system that adds the backdrop for quantum phenomenon to happen. So quantum biology includes circadian medicine, light therapies, mitochondrial health, the power of our thoughts and feelings to affect our health, so many different layers of quantum biology, and it's such a beautiful piece. And what I really like about it, one of the things I'm really drawn to about quantum biology is that it's not just another reduction. We've gotten really good at reducing things down, looking under a microscope. But what quantum biology does is it allows us to reduce things down to be able to see that there aren't these barriers that we've put in between the cell and the outside of the cell and the extracellular matrix, or between me and the person I'm talking to or the world around me. When we get to that layer of detail, we see that we are all just sharing electrons and protons, and that I don't really end at the barriers of my skin. And so my hope is that quantum biology spurs a change in healthcare and medicine, one that I think we really need at this time.
I feel like there's a lot of overlap between quantum biology and, we always talk about exposome the environment. So it makes a lot of sense because everything around you, from your social relationships, your sleep, and everything else, your environment really impacts your health. And it's all these electrons and living cells that talking to each other and then making these signals pass. It makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, absolutely. And then if we zoom out to look at it, really it's this cosmic flow, right? We're inundated with this cosmic radiation with photons from the sun. And as that hits the earth, it travels from the dirt to our cells, to the plants. It's just this magical flow of energy. And it's just a really beautiful science. I am really enjoying researching it and using it on myself and my patients and my family.
Amazing. I think it's kind of hard for people to grasp, but maybe first we can talk about, the circadian rhythm, because as you mentioned, it's part of the quantum biology and super important for every bodily function almost. What is circadian rhythm? How does it work?
Yeah, absolutely. So, we evolved on this earth, and our biggest primer of life is the sun in the solar system. And what a lot of people don't realize is, that makes a lot of sense, and of course, but that's not how we live our lives. And a lot of us don't realize that every single cell in the body has a circadian clock, every single cell. And so that means that our digestion is circadian driven. Our respiration is circadian driven. Our immune system, our hormonal status, our mental health, all of these things. I mean, there's not one it doesn't affect. Our cardiovascular system, our lymphatic system. I can go on, but really it's every single system in the body is being driven by these light cues from the sun. And so many of us live indoors, we work indoors, and we are not giving our body those light cues that it needs to set up that circadian rhythm. And so your circadian rhythm can be aligned, meaning that you're up in the morning and throughout the day, and you lower the lights and go to bed at night when the sun goes down. Or you can have what is called chrono disruption, and that just means that you're living against that rhythm of the sun. You're not getting that AM sun. You are up at night with artificial light. And that's not how our body has evolved to work with the greater ecosystem. And it's really such a small change that we make when we make that change to our light environment, when we get morning sun, and when we get a little bit of sun throughout the day, and when we lower the lights at night. And, you know, I'm here in the Pacific Northwest in Oregon. It gets dark here at like 4:30 or 5 p.m. In the winter time. And we're not bumping into each other in the dark. You know, what we do is we switch to more red and red and orange tones of lighting, right? To mimic firelight, candlelight, light that won't stop the conversion of serotonin into melatonin. And melatonin is so important for our health. It's not only is it associated with sleep, which is so important, but it is a huge antioxidant. It is going throughout the body and repairing and really sort of guiding those cells that aren't in the collective to be recycled. Without melatonin, there's just a whole slew of downstream effects that happen that aren't beneficial for our health. And so making these changes, while it goes against what many of us are doing on our daily life, it actually isn't that hard. And when we get in the rhythm of it, and when we see the changes that happen when we get that light or we don't get that artificial light at night, it's absolutely phenomenal. It's really one of the most powerful things in medicine that I've seen. You know, there are powerful pharmaceuticals out there, and in my own healing journey, some of the steroids, prednisone was really helpful for me to calm that inflammation down. But I had no idea about circadian rhythm and circadian alignment. And I wonder how that journey would have looked differently. And looking at like my toolbox, there are some pharmaceuticals that are very powerful, but I think that circadian rhythm and some of the things that are coming out of the quantum biological research really show us a different source of power out there that we can use for our health.
Also, I feel like circadian rhythm is more a behavior thing, and even if you don't take supplement, it doesn't cost you any money,
No.
which is amazing.
Yeah.
And then also, it sounded like if you are able to, one is adjust your schedule and then really pay attention on the sunlight, you can really regulate your biological clock.
Absolutely, absolutely. It's just a huge flow of information through our eyes, through our skin, and it really sets the tone for everything else. And I think that so many people come to me and they're like, I have tried the diet, I have tried the exercise, I have tried all these things and it's not working. And it's like, well, how are you living in accordance with your place in the world? Because your place in the world isn't meant to be indoors. I mean, of course, shelter is important, and always has been for the human race, right? But we haven't lived the way that we live now, where it's all indoors, you're inside all the time, you get in the car, you have the windows up, the air conditioner and the heater on, and then you get out and you have that 2-second walk into the building before reversing that at night, you know? And it's not how we have evolved, and it's not our place in the greater ecosystem. I think we have such hubris in medicine and science to think that we are on top of the pyramid, right? But really, we are embedded in this web, this greater ecosystem that dictates our biological function. And so when we can really attune to that web, then our health it just really gets way more vital, and we thrive the way that we're meant to be.
I feel like this also echoes with your several really great posts showing about, how we are electric beings. And, these things really play a role in regulating our like 24-hour cycle. How do they do that?
Yeah, absolutely. Again, like when I was in school, and it's still the case, I was in naturopathic medical school, but all the naturopathic medical schools, all the medical schools out there. Hey, Danny, good to see you. Um, all those schools teach this chemical model, and they really negate the electrical communication network inside the body. And there's so many avenues for that. I mean, we could just talk for days about it. But on a very basic level, our cells, our organelles, those little pieces inside the cell, our mitochondria, our DNA, these things have a certain electrical charge. And when we decrease that electrical charge, then we see illness and disease start to happen. And it's not that we don't have a chemical nature. It's not that we don't have a mechanical nature. But, the more I look at it, it looks like that is secondary, that what's happening on an electrical level, what's happening with the voltage of our cell membranes, what's happening with the flow of electrons and protons through our fascia, through our mitochondria, are really dictating that chemical process or that mechanical process that we see. One example out there is protein communication, right? So Bruce Lipton did an amazing job teaching us that when we look at a cell, back to like middle school biology, we've got the nucleus, which so many people say is the brain of the cell. And now we know that the proteins embedded in the cell membrane, I kind of think of it, it looks like, to me, I'm a mom of 3, it looks like a beaded necklace, right? So you have those little beads, and then the big beads are the proteins. And in that bilipid membrane of a cell, you have these bigger proteins. And when they change shape, and there's biological action that happens, right? An enzyme, an enzymatic process, or the movement of cilia in the respiratory tract, whatever the action might be, it is initiated by that change in protein structure or shape. And what we see from a quantum biological perspective is that is being initiated by this quantum action, whether it be the communication of vibration and oscillation, whether it is the conduction of electrons and protons through the water lining those proteins. It looks like those things are happening first to initiate what we did learn in middle school biology, right? And so it's just an absolutely fascinating field of study, and I couldn't be more excited about it.
It, I guess this also echoed to one of your other posts about how like one photon of light can really spark photosynthesis. And then, this is why sunlight is like so important in circadian rhythm. And, how could like this one small thing spark such big changes?
Right, right. And, whenever I talk about the sun and safe sun exposure and circadian rhythm, there's undoubtedly some questions I get like, well, how much sun, and do we have to be out there all the time, and I can't do that, and blah, da, 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 da. And it's like, it doesn't take that much. We're so used to the bigger, the better, supersize the meal, take the max dose. That's really the world we live in and the place that we practice medicine in. And it's such a beautiful thing to realize that from this quantum biology, we can see that it's just one photon that starts photosynthesis. It's not a level that needs to be reached of enough photons, right? It's just one. And this was really recent research from this year. Again, those Greg Engel and Fleming from UC Berkeley are just doing amazing research with quantum biology and showing how these processes work. And they showed that photosynthesis starts with one photon. It's that small. And to me, what that means is that we don't have to always be super loading, and we don't have to always increase the dose, and bigger isn't always better. These small changes that we make in our life with our light environment, with our thoughts, with the water we're drinking, the food we're eating, can really usher in big changes.
Amazing. How can sunlight, we have a lot of audience who's trying to get pregnant, staying pregnant, or new parents. How can sunlight exposure be benefit, during pregnancy?
Oh, absolutely. So before pregnancy, during pregnancy, after pregnancy, this circadian alignment with the sun is going to inform your body. So if we think about fertility and how we get pregnant through that hormonal cascade, we're talking about a system of hormones, and what triggers those hormones is light. So if we are having issues with fertility or staying pregnant, it really behooves us to look at our light environment, because that morning light that I was talking about and keep talking about is what sets up that cascade of hormones in the body. And when we look at the research with children in utero, so when we're pregnant and newborn babies and infancy, we see that the mother's circadian alignment, meaning whether she is getting that AM sun and daytime sun and lowering the lights at night and sleeping at night and not having that bright artificial blue light at night, it informs that baby's immune system. It informs that baby's inflammatory system and hormonal system. So it's all such a beautiful intricate fabric when we're looking at hormones, that along the journey of getting pregnant, staying pregnant, being pregnant, having a baby, that circadian rhythm is so important. And it also, I talk a ton about light, but I should also mention that that's not the only thing that informs our circadian rhythm, right? So if we are getting light in the morning and then eating, our body's like, okay, the day has started. I'm going to do all of my, cortisol, my dopamine, my serotonin. All of these things are really tied to that rhythm. It's interesting, there's research out there even about our social interactions, right? So if we are engaging in physical activity or social interactions, talking, regardless of the light environment, that's also informing our circadian rhythm. We need that silence. We need that darkness. We need that rest at night, even aside from the sleep, right? So it's such a beautiful system that is set up to inform our hormonal cascade, which is so important when we're talking about fertility and getting pregnant and staying pregnant, and then taking care of those little babies when we give birth. So it's a very underappreciated system, but it is really profound, the impact that circadian rhythm has on our fertility and pregnancy.
Amazing. I know another way of kind of doing iron exchange, and then part of the quantum biology is also grounding. So, and I think we also don't talk about grounding as much. And, what are some benefit to, sitting by your side for promoting balance, and how does like grounding work? How could it help promote balance?
Absolutely. Absolutely. So I like to make it very simple by saying the earth is the socket and we are the plug. And so to get that charge, we need to plug in, meaning that we need to be touching the earth or something connected to that earth with our bare feet, our bare hands. There are fabrics that conduct electricity, silk and cotton, linen. Those are wonderful. If we don't want to do the bare feet, bare hands, we can have conductive fabrics so that we can go sit on the grass or go sit on the beach or the rock or the tree. And so it's really a beautifully simplistic system where we have this negative charge to be maintained in our body, and we maintain it with the flow of electrons. And when we are embedded in that sort of sea of electrons that lines the earth from that conversation of lightning and those that cosmic radiation coming in through our ionosphere, we are able to recharge really on a basic level. We are able to capture those electrons and send them where they need to be in the body to maintain that negative charge. And not many doctors are talking about maintaining our negative charge for health, but it's absolutely critical. And there are a lot of people doing research out there, and it's abundant. The research is abundant, and it is very clear that if we can maintain that negative charge, our health and our health outcomes are much, much higher. And grounding is an easy, cheap way to do that.
So all you have to do is making sure, okay, get your sunlight and then go out and then barefoot or wear natural materials and then go barefoot or sit on the ground so you can actually get that grounding, getting that negative ion.
Absolutely. It's as simple as that. And I think, you know, when I'm talking with my patients or my family, I love to have them stack practices because I know we're really busy. We're just, this modern day life, we're sort of inundated with obligations and things to do. And so when I'm talking with people, I love to incorporate both. I love to go out in the morning light, put my feet on the ground, my bare feet. I do love, I'm one of those that loves to be bare, barefoot, bare body, bare hands on the earth, and soak up that morning light. And then if we can add movement to it, what I do personally is gentle stretching to work that fascia system. I mean, it's just like win, win, win all over. It just sets up all these different hormonal cascades. And it is free and it is accessible to most every single person out there. And I think the beautiful thing too is so many of us are living a life that is, you know, depleted in safety. So many of us live in unsafe relationships or families or communities or workplaces. Definitely, maybe we could say society overall doesn't feel safe for most of us. And to find that safety in a relationship with the dirt beneath our feet, with the sun that rises every morning, it's such a beautiful return to those relationships that we have evolved with over millennia.
Amazing. Wow. You are like such a wealth of knowledge. You have so many amazing master classes and courses. Please tell us about them.
I love sharing this information. And like I said before, I really do feel like this ushers in a time when we can recognize that we're not separate from the water, from the earth, from the air. And so I love sharing this information. And I have a lot of classes about quantum biology, about the quantum biology of trauma, about our fascia, about structured water. There's so many different courses that I have, and there's so many free downloads and PDFs I have out there for people because I don't want money to be an obstacle as well. I just want this information out there and sort of to be that swell of water before that tide of change, right? We just, if we think we're at the pinnacle of health right now, what a scary thought. We're in the midst of multiple epidemics. And so I really hope that this message, this information, this research, this paradigm shift really trickles out there. Because I believe that right now in society, there's such a consolidation of power, right? Mm-hmm. That for change to come from the top down is not as practical as change coming from the bottom up. So the more of us that can embrace these things, that can return to these relationships and build resilience and build that strength to then go ask our doctors and demand a different way of doing things and demand that the powers that be change the way things are done. I really think that's the only way that we're going to see change, because from what I've noticed, the powers that be are pretty happy with the way things are going. And there's just a continuance of policies and laws and different things that are being enacted. So my hope is that we can become strong and collectively demand a change.
Absolutely. That's also exactly what we want for our environment too, which then also gives really good feedback to this quantum biology that works for all of us.
Yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, once we realize how intertwined, I think we all know the earth is important. We want it healthy. We want clean air. But once we realize that there is no separation between us and that we are fighting not only for our health, but our health means the health of the world and the planet we live on, then true change can come.
Wow, amazing. Is there anything else you'd like to share?
I just thank you so much for having me on. Thank you so much for the work you do and spreading this information. It was wonderful to talk with you today.
Absolutely, totally aligned. We'll be promoting all the content, and then thank you, everyone. We have really good turnout today, so everyone be sure to follow Dr. Kat and also check out all the materials and then learn more about quantum biology. Thank you so much.
Yes, thank you so much. Thank you, everybody, for watching.
Yeah, thank you. Have a good day.
You too.
Bye.
Bye.